Hello, everybody. It's Friday. That means it's time for another topic of the week. So, last week's topic was about good, bad, or spoilers. Which side do you take? The tripartite, the three-way fight that is the Warhammer world and how it's always been. And what amused me is how many people like me just love the spoilers. They don't really get behind good. They don't really get behind evil. They just like messing stuff up. And I think that right there is the proof to me of the value of that third party, why you need them. Because it's so much easier to get behind. Like, for a lot of people, not everybody. Some people really empathize with the good, and some people love, playing the bad guy, and I get all that. But having that third option draws so many more people into the narrative, into what can happen. People like me, and a lot of others who responded. As usual, all the videos of people who responded will be linked in last week's video, which of course is linked down below. This week's topic. So, this week, Fantasy Flight Games ended their relationship with Games Workshop. Perhaps unsurprisingly, many people had said this was coming for a while. And obviously, Fantasy Flight had made some good use of the Warhammer IP, and so that got me thinking about the use of the Warhammer IP, and it's an interesting one because the nature of how the Games Workshop IP has varied a lot over the years. That is to say, there was a long time where it was only, for video game purposes, it was given to only one vendor, and that vendor was allowed to be the only person who could make things. Now, however, they've kind of flipped to the other end of the spectrum, and they're just like, whatever's clever, just shotgun things out, whatever sticks. So it got me thinking about uses of the Warhammer IP outside of any of the core games. That is to say, not Warhammer Fantasy or Age of Sigmar or 40K or anything like that. None of the tabletop war games. This could be any of the board game releases, going back to Hero Quest or Warhammer Quest. This could be video games, could be card games, could be anything. They've used the IP in a lot of different games over the years. And it got me thinking about what is the best use of the Warhammer IP. Because it doesn't always translate, I think, perhaps perfectly or maybe even effectively, I guess is what I would say. I don't know. So it got me really thinking about the various other ways that I had seen it. And certainly, there's a lot of great ones I'm sure we could list, and maybe some people will pick these as their best. For example, we've talked about Hero Quest before and how awesome it is, and there's a fantastic video of why Hero Quest is the best game. I'll grab it and link it below. It has nothing to do with this topic precisely, but it is an amazing video and worth watching. But for me, I think the best use of the Warhammer IP outside of the core tabletop games, that is to say something where the IP was licensed outright. That's what I really mean, the best licensing out of that IP, or I guess use of it outside of the tabletop, because some of that stuff I guess is internal, like Warhammer Quest or something. It's got to be Age of Reckoning. It's got to be Warhammer Age of Reckoning, or just Warhammer Online, however you want to say it. That's my pick. I loved that game, and I played that game so much. It was originally, it's from one of my favorite designers, even though he got... we won't talk about the studio and what the studio did to mess that game up. It had a list of problems, as long as your arm. But that being said, it was still one of the greatest games that I've ever played in video game format. The number of happy stories I have from playing War, I could just do a new video series about things I enjoyed about War. I'm not going to, but it's that numerous. I'll share one quick story here just to reinforce my point. Of course, one of the greatest things about Warhammer Online was that you could PvP from level 1. Like, literally, you could load in the game, click the button to queue, and be in a scenario 30 seconds after you joined the game, after that character's existence. No need to screw around. No garbage. No PvE nonsense. No time wasting. Just fighting. And in fact, to this day, there was a guy in like one of the Empire camps who, when you clicked on him, he said, "Why ain't you fighting?" Love that guy. I use that all the time. So, anyways, we all got together and we made a theme group of goblins. Everybody had to be a goblin. Only goblins were allowed. And everybody had to be named after a kind of pickle. So you could be like, there was a Vlasic pickle, and there was a sweet dill, and so on and so forth. And so we had 8 goblins, 8 players, 8 people, all named after pickles. And so the group was called Pickles. And we all made little level 1 goblins. It was like 5 shamans and 3 squig herders. We all loaded into a scenario together, like a Norden watch, and we murdered everybody. Just scenario, level 1, just scenario after scenario of murdering everybody who stood against us. Because that group of a bunch of pickles, just level 1 characters all working in concert, are going to destroy 8 randos running around not knowing what they're doing. I don't care. And it was just the most grotesque savagery I've ever seen in PvP. And as we're running around murdering everybody who would dare stand against the pickle group, you could like macro in commands, so you just pressed a button and your character would shout something to the whole zone. And so we all had the same macro shout command of "Taste the briny justice." And I laughed a lot at that. Briny justice is pretty funny to me. So there you go. It's got to be, for me, it's got to be Warhammer Online. But what I want to know, of course, for this topic is, what is your favorite use of the Warhammer IP? Not in the games themselves. Could be anything. Could be other stories they've licensed out, books, card games, video games, board games, anything. What is it to you that all these years later still left an indelible mark on you? Maybe it's what got you interested in the game itself. Maybe it was just another way to reignite your passion in the hobby later. As always, put your responses down below, or make a video response, and then I'll link that down in the description. Don't forget last week's video, also down there. Check it out. And like I said, if you got a minute, watch that Hero Quest video. It's pretty great. You won't regret it. As always, I very much look forward to those responses, and we'll see you next time.